CENTER Maine presents Agree to Disagree with Phil Harriman and Ethan Strimling, an ongoing podcast on Maine politics. Phil, a Republican, and Ethan, a Democrat, are two of Maine's most well-known and respected political analysts. Every week and sometimes daily, get new episodes discussing all things political and how it affects Mainers like you. And now, here's Phil and Ethan.
Welcome, folks, to episode 11 of the Agree to Disagree podcast with Phil and Ethan, a weekly podcast on CENTER Maine from now through Election Day. Philip, how was your week?
It was great. We had great weather. The president got a peace accord signed with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, and it was great. Don't you think?
Did you see all that haze from California from the climate change?
Pollution? The political pollution?
The climate change, it certainly is political pollution. It's climate change pollution. And one party seems unwilling to accept that scientific research as the rest of the country burns. So I know you guys don't care much about California, Oregon, or Washington State, but they're good people out there.
No, we don't care about clean water or clean air or good schools or crime-free neighborhoods. We're just...
I know. Schoolsy, can you make sure you get that clip and we use that for future reference? Because that's about the most accurate thing Phil has said in 11 weeks. All right, Phil, you ready to debate? We got a lot going on this week. We got
what do you got for us to talk about?
Well, we got Trump, of course, saying on the record that he did not that he did know how deadly the virus was, despite the fact that he was saying to the American public that it wasn't as deadly. We had the first U.S. Senate debate, very interesting. First time that Sarah and Collins were on the same stage. We're going to grade how they did. We got the CD2 race, been pretty sleepy between Jared and Dale Craft. See if we can wake that one up a little bit. Mayor of Sanford telling his residents to please put on their masks, be a little more responsible. We got the Maine Principals Association coming down with a declaration on sports. We got gun endorsements, non-endorsements. We got Republicans who are endorsing Joe Biden. And we even got Jimmy Carter's son smoking up in the White House. Did you ever smoke up in the White House?
No, but I actually have been in the White House several times, but I didn't have any opportunity to inhale any combustible natural herbs.
Did you get a little nip?
We have a little love it, hate it, or wake me up when it's over. And our producer, Schoolsy, tells us how I did on the hot seat last week in the nailed it or failed it section of our podcast.
Yeah, and interestingly here this week we have a dispute on one of the answers. Usually every week Phil and I kind of agree that what the answer should be, and Schoolsy really had to step in and say, I'm going to make the determination. Neither one of us knows what that is yet, so we will find out a little bit later in the show. So my sense is you had a pretty rough week, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, should we dive in and get this show rolling? Kick us off, Schoolsy.
As Speaker of the House, I solemnly and sadly open the debate.
All right, my friend, Trump said he knew how bad COVID was back in February. However, he said he didn't want to create panic, so to speak, so he didn't tell the same to the American people. Phil, should Trump have disclosed everything he knew, thereby creating the fear and panic among the public at large, or not?
Well, I am of two thoughts on this. One, I think the president, whoever he or she is, needs to always have a demeanor of we're going to be okay. We've got a plan. We know what we're dealing with. And I think the president did accomplish that from a political rhetoric point of view. We now know that he realized that it was much more contagious than he actually let on. So I understand the criticisms that he's taken. He gave Bob Woodward probably a few million more dollars in royalties for his book by that revelation. But I also come to the conclusion that if you look at the actions that he took in addition to the words, there was a very clear message that we're going to social distance. We've got to clean. We've got to separate. We've got to make sure that we're doing everything we can to diminish the spread of this virus. And on that score, I give him high marks. I think between the ventilators and the manufacturing of masks and swabs and all the things that were actually done, he did what was in the best interest of the American people.
Well, I don't know what words you were hearing. The words I was hearing was him saying that the virus is not that deadly. You don't have to worry about it. We don't need to shut down the economy. His actions of not wearing a mask in public, it took him months to do that. Took him just as long to be able to tell the American people that masks were important. I think his actions were, evidence is clear that his actions at this point cost us tens of thousands of more lives than needed to be cost. Parts of the country, people are still debating today whether you need to wear masks, and that's fundamentally came from Donald Trump. If he had stepped up right away and said, look, this is serious. The American people are smart. They understand when to panic and when not to panic. When a hurricane is coming, you need to tell people to evacuate. You need to tell people to protect themselves. That's what was happening. And he was telling people, no, don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. It's just going to disappear. And now to find out that he actually knew that he was lying to the American people, it's even more of an outrage. And I expect that's why he's getting so much grief and his favorable numbers continue to drop.
Well, I got to push back on you a little bit on this. If you look at, Dr. Fauci, who was on, the airwaves literally hours every day at the onset of this pandemic, he was the one, and he's a career bureaucrat. He's been there through several administrations, Democrats and Republicans. He was the one saying, Ethan, masks are of little value in the spread of a virus. And if you go to the other end of the spectrum and you cite these deaths where the survival rate is like 99.5%, and of that 0.5 who are in harm's way, they are the elderly with another diagnosis. And if you look around the states, you can just look at New York and Massachusetts. It was the governors who put people back in nursing homes who had the virus, and that's where most of the mortality has come from.
Look, Phil, you're trying to change
around here.
You're trying to change the subject. Sure, is there blame to go elsewhere? The question right now is, Donald Trump said on tape, on the record, I knew how dangerous this was, and then on literally the same week was saying to the public, it's not that dangerous. That is not good leadership. That is shameful leadership. Now, are there other places to look? Of course, but to start trying to blame Fauci or governors for Donald Trump's failure to be the kind of leader that he is expected to be, that just will never fly with the American people, and it's why they're not buying it.
Let me conclude by saying this. What were his actions? Did he say everybody go back to school, everybody go to stadiums and watch sports? Did he say that the planes should fly and people should go to restaurants? No, it was just the opposite, and those are the facts.
No, but his words were that people, it's going to be okay. This is all going to disappear. He was very clear, never wore a mask in public, was never telling people to wear masks. He needed to take much stronger actions, much stronger words to match the words that he apparently knew in private. That's what a failure.
You're going to let me have the last word. Okay, let's move on. The U.S. Senate debate is behind us. Strim, grade the performance of each of the candidates and give a little explanation of why, and then I'll clean up the mess that you make. I'll.
No, you'll correct my grades.
Yes.
Look, I actually think that, the two biggest names on the stage, obviously Collins and Gideon, that's who most people were watching to try to figure out what was happening. I think they both did very well. I'm not going to give either one of them an A because there were no knockout punches blown or anything like that, but this was a solid B+ performance by both. Both made minor mistakes, but ultimately Susan Collins, who's done this many times before, looked solid, held her ground, no mistakes. Sarah Gideon got out there for the first time introducing herself, good grasp of the issues, was clear in terms of building a contrast. So the two of them, I'm going to give them a B+. Lisa Savage, I'm going to give her more like a B-. I think that she has some work to do to really make clear what her message is. She wandered around a little bit too much. Just find a message very clear and repeat it 100 times if you can. Max Lynn, he doesn't even get a degrade. He's been put in detention on suspension for a week. Maybe we'll let him come back to school once he writes on the school board, "I will not misbehave" in front of Pat Callahan 20 times.
Yeah, that was what a start. First opportunity Max Lynn gets to introduce himself to the state of Maine and all of the other vested interests around the country that were tuned into this debate. And the first thing he says is, "I reject you out of hand. I've got something else to talk about." How arrogant and how insensitive. And if he had any chance of gaining momentum, he lost it by the first two sentences that he uttered. Lisa Savage, I agree with you. I think she handled herself very well. She was well versed on the issues. A number of times, Senator Collins chimed in that she agreed with Lisa Savage on some of their talking points. So I agree with you. I think she was a solid B in her performance. But the distinction, and I agree with you, the distinction between Gideon and Collins is where the race is. Let's not make any, suggestion that this is anything other than a two-woman race. Remember, Sarah Gideon can say and do whatever she wants to go on the offensive. She really doesn't have a record to stand on, as does Susan Collins. And I think the distinction is that Susan Collins handled herself very well. She understands the issue. She knows why she voted the way she did. And she's prepared to stand up to and speak more clearly about the issues as these debates unfold, rather than us watching commercials ad nauseum with these just nasty, gut you below the belt attacks. Susan Collins is going to have a chance to fill in the details. I think that's going to matter more to people than these sucker punches.
Well, yeah, but you're not answering the question in terms of the debate itself. You're debating the race. That's fine. But in terms of the debate itself, where are you what's the grade you give Sarah and the grade?
I think Sarah was a solid B. It's easy to be, as long as you don't trip on your own words, it's easy to put out these visions and statements that you don't have to back up because you don't have a record. And I think Susan Collins was a solid B plus, because not only did she handle herself as a graceful diplomat that she is, she's also prepared to fill in the blanks of the details on specific issues and votes that she has cast.
Yeah, all right. So the only difference we really have, I think, is I give Sarah Gideon more of a B plus than a B. And I think that's really because she did have a very good grasp of the issue. She didn't stumble on anything. The only question was around, would you vote for John Roberts, which was kind of like this little gotcha. And, she did not handle that question well. She should have said simply, no, he's out of step. He's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Or if she would have supported him, said, yeah, he is, well more qualified than somebody like Brett Kavanaugh. Susan Collins on her end still really fumbling the question about Donald Trump. She just has got to figure out how to answer that question accurately. She won't do it. And I think the Maine public is just not okay with that.
Well, I think on the question of Roberts, and I agree with that, Sarah was not well spoken on that issue. There's two things there. Roberts was a controversial appointee. He is in the 15 years that he has been there, has established himself as pretty much a moderate. He's also a summer resident of Maine. You would think Sarah would have been able to quickly decide for or explain why she would have or would not have confirmed someone who over time has demonstrated a pretty competent track record now that he's on the bench. As it relates to Susan Collins and her issues with Trump, I get why she's doing it. She needs the people in the 2nd Congressional District who are going to vote for Trump to vote for her. So she doesn't want to alienate them, and she doesn't want to give people in the 1st Congressional District another reason to move in the Gideon direction. She's in a place that I like to say in politics, sometimes you look to the left and you see a bus coming, and you look to the right and you see a train coming.
All right, buddy. I like the train. That's good public transportation. I'm good. I'm okay with that. All right. CD2. Phil, have you seen Dale Crafts? Has anybody seen Dale Crafts? He's barely on TV. compared to Jared Golden, the national Republicans have yet to step in and help him the way that they are Susan Collins. And meanwhile, polls are continuing to show him down by double digits. Phil, is this race already over? Has Dale given up?
Well, I don't think we can get to that conclusion, but you touch on something that the political insiders know well, and that is if the national focus on your race indicates that you are not competitive, those dollars that could have come your way are going somewhere else. And that ongoing polling goes on literally every day. So if you see that Dale Crafts is not getting more airtime, it's probably an indication that the national political scientists have determined that that race is not competitive. And I think also Dale Crafts is still in the position where he needs to introduce himself to people in the 2nd Congressional District to see if he can catch fire. People already have a sense of who Jared Golden is, and his commercials, I think, are exceptionally effective. He's talking about not getting involved in partisan fights in Washington. He's a local boy in the Lewiston, Auburn area. He's a military man. He's a sports person. His commercials bring out, homespun Maine people to endorse him. Kraft's got to come up with a unique message to get his story heard and momentum built for his campaign.
Yeah, as Yogi Berra would say, it's getting awfully late, pretty early out there, and he's got to realize that, it's now mid-September, and he's literally, last I checked, is spending like $30,000 a week on TV compared to $150,000, $200,000 a week that Jared is going to be spending. That's a real disadvantage. I get it that the primary was a month later, so things have been condensed, but Crafts has got to get a message out if he wants to be competitive at all. But I think, as you indicated, the fact that the national Republicans are unwilling to put any money in so far tells you everything you need to know that in terms of whether this race is actually competitive. I think that Republicans, seem to think that this is a real possibility in the state of Maine. And everybody who's looking at the polling is recognizing that it really isn't so far. So, Jared Golden's job at this point is keep doing exactly what he's doing, keep being exactly who he is, don't make any mistakes. Dale Crafts better find a way to make some noise.
Yeah, I agree with you, but don't underestimate the ability for the national effort to come in here in a significant way in the waning weeks, particularly if the president has a chance to win that 2nd Congressional District electoral vote. And just real quickly for our viewers in Maine, our 4 electoral votes are split differently than all other states. If you win the if you win the overall vote, you get 2 of our 4. If you win the 1st Congressional District, you get that 1. And if you win the 2nd, you get 1. And as we know, President Trump got an electoral vote out of the 2nd Congressional District in 2016. If he comes back with the same interest and focus and time in the 2nd District, that will help Dale Crafts.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right about that. We aren't the only state, by the way. There's one other state that splits them up.
Right. Right.
Dale Crafts, I think, it's a good point you make. Dale Crafts' best shot is for Trump to actually start to gain some ground. And, there's been some polls that has shown Trump close, tied, certainly within shooting distance of winning CD2. He's not going to win the state for sure, but he does have a shot at CD2 right now. And if he can bring that margin up like he did last time, in which he won CD2, overwhelmingly, then that will certainly give Dale Crafts a shot to take this. But as you said, nobody knows who he is yet. So I think that he's going to have to do better than simply rely on Donald Trump's coattails. That's not going to hack it. All right, my friend, time for your favorite segment of the week. A little love it, a little hate it, a little wake me up when it's over. I hope you got your little blankie with you and you're got some milk and cookies, get you up from your nap, because I know you often are so reasonable about these things. And you're like, oh, these politicians and these pundits, they go on and on and on. Wake me up when it's over. But you ready to play?
Oh, yeah. I'm suited up and on the field.
All right, buddy. Well, we're going to Sanford today. Phil, the mayor of Sanford has told people to take COVID a little more seriously, and the council has passed a requirement to do the same. Masks must be worn in public. Phil, are you loving this? Are you hating this? Or wake me up when it's over?
I'm hating this. I don't think we need any other layer of government to remind us that the COVID protocols are important to follow. And the fact that the town council in Sanford passed a resolution saying it's mandatory, I'm hating it. It's just more government trying to tell us what to do. We already know how important it is to protect ourselves, to protect others. You know, wearing a mask is not about protecting yourself. It's about protecting others. And I think the message is clear. We've all heard it. And there are already penalties, if you will, for not conforming. I'm hating. Maine principals have said no football or indoor volleyball. Let me put a caveat. The football is no tackle football. You can play 7-person flag football. I don't understand the difference, but that's the way it came down. You loving this, hating this, or shall we wake you up when it's over?
I love that you're trying to like frame flag football as the same as real football.
That's true.
Come on, buddy. I've played flag football. I've never played real football. I'm pretty sure it's a very different sport. So, but anyway, you know what? I mean, I'm hating this because it had to happen, but I do think that the Maine Principals Association made the right decision. I think that they have to be very careful. You can play volleyball outdoors. I think that makes sense. You know, there's just a lot of evidence within football, a lot of tackling in a scrum on the pile. Those are really going to be opportunities where you could transmit COVID in a way that you won't in soccer and other outdoor sports. It'll be interesting to see how it moves forward in terms of basketball and other indoor sports as we get into winter. But I think the Maine Principals Association did the right thing, even though I'm hating that kids can't play football. Going back to CD2 for a moment here, an interesting development in that race. Dale Crafts failed to get the endorsement of the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine, an organization in which he serves on the board, but he does get the NRA endorsement. Phil, are you loving this, you hating this, or wake me up when it's over?
Oh, no, I'm hating this one, Strim. How do you not endorse a guy who sits on your board of directors, who's in a campaign where the issue of people's right to own firearms is a constant discussion in Washington? Meanwhile, the National Rifle Association has endorsed him over Golden. This just sends a conflicting message. It gives Golden an opportunity to neutralize the sportsman vote in the 2nd Congressional District. I'm hating this.
You know, just a quick question on that before I go to the next one. Why do you think they didn't endorse him? I mean, I agree with you. It's very strange. But do you have any idea why they didn't endorse him?
I don't. There either is some ardent supporters of Golden who sit on that board, which would give them an opportunity to perhaps not endorse any candidate, or perhaps Kraft has left a sour taste in their mouth over some issue. I don't know, but it gives us a reason to talk about it, which is not helpful Crafts.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Senate Republicans were not able to muster the votes to pass their skinny stimulus, something that you predicted they would get done. Phil, are you loving this, you hating this, or wake me up when it's over?
Wake me up when it's over. We all know the Senate wants a version that's $1 trillion, and the Democrats want something that's $3 trillion. They're both pointing fingers at each other. You know, we can take a long nap while they, poke at each other and opine on the media opportunities about how the other team is the problem. Wake me up when it's over. They will get something done. And probably when it becomes clear that the president's going to do it through executive order, Democrats will get the best they can so that they can go to the voters and say, look what we did in spite of those mean-spirited Republicans.
You didn't give us the big yawn, though. That's my favorite part of the wake me up when it's over, is when you give the big yawn. Well, maybe on the next one we'll get there. All right. So you're up. Sorry. Wait a minute. Go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
Two Republican state senators, both members of the party leadership during their time in Augusta, Kevin Ray and Roger Cates, have endorsed Joe Biden for president. Ethan, you loving this, hating this, or you want us to wake you up when it's over?
I'm loving it. Of course I'm loving it. This is good stuff right here. And what's interesting is Roger Cates is somebody who's, who has been on the outside of sort of where the Republican Party has shifted. He's kind of that old school. I'd say he's more kind of where you came from within the Republican Party. But Kevin Ray has always been deeply ensconced within the Republican Party, not an outsider within the party at all. And for him to take this position, it's clear. Is Joe Biden their favorite candidate? Of course not. But I think what they recognize very clearly is that Donald Trump has taken their party to a place that they're not comfortable with, pushing policies, the level of corruption, all of that together. They're looking at it and saying, you know what, this is not okay. And, as more Republicans do that, Donald Trump needs every Republican vote he can get because he's not going to get many others. And so it's a big deal. All right, buddy, last but not least, Jimmy Carter says his son got high with Willie Nelson on the roof of the White House. Phil, you loving this? You hating this? Or wake me up when it's over?
Oh, actually, I'm loving this because Jimmy Carter basically said, elect me as president and we will not have this legacy of Richard Nixon to put down in the history books. Vote for me because we'll have a new era. Had this information come out when he was president, I think this would have been a scandal. But in today's age, as we know, marijuana is quickly becoming legal in many states around the country. The federal government at some point is going to have to weigh in on this and say, is it still illegal, or is it legal? And if so, banking systems will open up and opportunities for people in that business will ease up a bit. But I just think I'm loving the fact that Willie Nelson, of all people, got to smoke weed with the president's son on the roof of the White House. That's quite a remarkable.
You're jealous, aren't you, buddy? You're jealous. All right, my friend, here we go. Nailed it or failed it. Last week, you were on the hot seat. Your record in a week for wins was 4. Let's see if you can beat it. Schoolsy, you ready to give us whether Phil nailed it, failed it, or pushed it this week?
Ready to go.
All right. The first question, Schoolsy, was agree or disagree. In Friday's U.S. Senate debate, Susan Collins will mention her hometown of Caribou at least 3 times. Phil said agree. Schoolsy, how do you do?
Failed it.
Oh, she mentioned it once. I mean, she didn't actually mention Caribou, but I'm sure you caught when she talked about her business, her family, 150 years forever.
I was like, okay, keep going.
All right, buddy. Agree or disagree? In the same debate, Sarah Gideon will tie Susan Collins to Donald Trump at least 6 times. Phil said agree. Schoolsy, how'd he do?
Failed it.
Dude, getting hammered, man. She should have done it more. Yeah, all right.
Oh, I think it's coming.
Yeah, I think you're right. Agree or disagree? Number 3, school sports will fully resume this coming week. Phil said he agrees. Schoolsy, how'd he do?
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
Schoolsy, you need to come on the screen here for a second and explain yourself. The question was clear. Fully resume this. I even asked him on tape, are you talking about football? You cannot claim that flag football is the same as regular football.
According to the MPA regulations, it is an offered sport by the Maine Principals Association. I don't like it, but
I don't either.
But he pushed it.
Oh, all right. At least you didn't give it to him, for heaven's sakes. All right. Number 4, agree to disagree or disagree. Governor Mills will announce she is bringing the legislature back into session. Phil said disagree. Wait a minute. Yes, Phil said disagree. Schoolsy, how'd he do?
Nailed it.
No, I think we actually got that one backwards, and that's my fault. I just was looking at the script on that one. Unless Phil changed it or something, but I don't. That one he actually failed at Schoolsy, so that was my fault. I sent the wrong signal on that one. So, can you just do the failed it for me so I can feel better about the fact that Phil actually got that one wrong?
Failed it.
Thank you. Number 5, agree or disagree. Senate takes action on another round of payroll protection. Phil said disagree. Schoolsy, how'd he do?
Nailed it.
Yeah, you got that one. You have faith in government not getting it done. Agree or disagree. Tom Brady will win his first start at Tampa Bay as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Phil said disagree. Schoolsy, how'd he do?
Nailed it.
And a bonus question I threw in last week. Cam Newton will win his first start as a Patriot. Phil said, agree. Schoolsy, we know how he did. Play it.
Nailed it.
All right.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
All right. So it looks to me like you got 3 right, 3 wrong, 1 push. I will know, though, without the football questions, you would have been underwater quite a bit on there. So you should probably go into sports analysis, I think.
All right. You don't need to kick a guy when he's down. All right, it's your turn on the hot seat. You have 5 right so far to my 11. So if you run the table this week, you'll actually get to even.
All right. I think I can do that.
All right. So all we need from you is agree or disagree and a brief explanation as to why. Number 1.
Is it brief or brief? Brief. I'm ready.
Number 1, agree or disagree, the Senate will finally pass another stimulus in the next week.
You know what? I am going to say agree. Nancy has said they're not going home until something gets done. And so I think the Senate is going to get something passed and negotiations will go from there. So I'm going to say agree.
Number 2, agree or disagree, Maine will surpass 250,000 absentee requests by next week.
We're close to 200,000 right now. So I'm going to say agree.
Wow.
Yeah.
3, agree or disagree. Half a dozen Maine public schools will close for at least a day due to COVID in the next week.
I'm going to say disagree. I think they got pretty good protocols in place. They won't need to close down, but they will quarantine kids and stuff.
Agree or disagree, Maine legislature will agree to meet in the week ahead.
I don't think that they're going to meet in the week ahead. They can't.
Agree to meet, not actually physically meet, but agree in the next week that they will meet.
That they will come into session. I'm going to say I disagree.
Number 5, agree or disagree, the Cumberland County Commissioners will reverse their decision and let the Civic Center become a homeless shelter.
Woo! You know what? I'm going to go with my heart on this one and say I'm going to agree because I hope that they do it. And I hope the public pressure increases to get them to make another decision.
And finally, agree or disagree, on our return on Sunday morning on the political brew this week, Pat Callahan will say, okay, boys, at least 3 times.
Yeah, we're going to be on political brew again. God, it's going to be a long time since we've done that. I don't think he's going to say it 3 times. I think he will say it twice, but I'm going to disagree that he'll say it at least 3 times.
The clock has run out. The buzzer is sounding.
Okay, Ethan, as we do each week in honor of Maine's bicentennial year, we answer and ask a Maine political trivia question. Here is last week's question. Who was the first person in Maine elected to serve both as Speaker of the Maine House of Representatives and President of the Maine Senate?
Yeah, and you said you knew the answer to this one. I will say that there was a little bit of a trick in it. The trick was that the question said who was the first, but in reality, of course, there has only been one. And since you know the answer, why don't you fill in our viewers and our listeners?
Yes, and I actually had the honor of serving with Speaker and President of the Senate, Libby Mitchell of Vassalboro.
Was she speaker when you were there? Oh, no, you were. Yes, she was speaker. You were in the Senate. Was
John
she
Martin was speaker my first term. She was speaker my last term. And I actually did not serve with her when she was president of the Senate. But she and I, interesting little fun fact here, she and I joined in a lawsuit against a referendum petition that required people's names on the ballot to be labeled with, I forget whether they were in favor of term limits or not. I forget the specifics, but she and I, in a bipartisan fashion, joined in a lawsuit, and we actually were successful.
Yeah, I served with Libby in the Senate. She became the majority leader while I was there. She rose up to that position, and then I believe she became president the year after I left. But yeah, she is just a remarkable legislator, really accomplished. You know, she obviously came pretty close to perhaps being governor as well. So that would have been remarkable to be Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, and governor. That would have been incredible. But what a career, good legacy, somebody we can all be proud of, I would say.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay, here's this week's trivia question on Maine's bicentennial. After Maine voted to separate from Massachusetts, what happened next for Maine to become a state? We'll have that for you next week.
Yeah, a little unfortunate what had to happen in order for Maine to become a state, but that'll be interesting for us to talk about next week. All right. You added in this segment, loser of the week last week. Phil, you got a loser politician this week?
Yeah, I do. I don't say this for partisan purposes. I say it because I think it's unfortunate that Speaker of the House in Washington, Nancy Pelosi, her reaction to this accord that was signed between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, she labeled it as a distraction from combating COVID-19. I think this was a historic moment.
Yeah, I think it's never good to sort of take away from something like that. I think her comments were a little out of context, but I hear you on that one for sure. It's a good accomplishment, and there's no need to try to tamp it down. So my loser of the week, hey, who else could it be but other than Max Lynn? God love this guy. You know, I didn't know whether I should call him the loser or not because he gives us so much to talk about, but just, I mean, a classic, got to be close to the worst performance ever in a U.S. Senate debate, in any debate for federal office in the state. Look, lots of politicians figure out how to not answer questions, but what he did was just monumentally terrible. And, you know, if I'm actually other TV stations, I may be questioning whether or not they actually have him on the stage after that performance, because it's clear he didn't care about the rules.
Yeah, he was. That was very rude, not only to the host, Pullman Press Herald, the Bangor Daily News, and of course our beloved Pat Callahan at News Center Maine. That was pretty rude for him to behave that way.
Okay. Don't be rude.
Yes. All right. How do we do? Donald, tell us how we did.
And you are fake news. You are fake news.
No matter what we say, he says we're fake news.
Well, you know, he's probably believed it.
He probably does believe it. All right, Phil. Have a great week. It's been a good one. All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.